Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we really try to cut through the noise and pull together insights from, well, sometimes pretty unexpected places.
Definitely.
And today, we're diving deep into something fundamental. Trust. And maybe more importantly, deception in our digital lives.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
We've got this really interesting mix of sources. On one hand, these frankly disturbing personal stories about dating app disasters. Just
Wow.
some really awful ones.
And then there are police reports detailing actual violence linked to Tinder encounters. Really serious stuff.
Very sobering.
And mixing with all that, we've got insights from Alberto Hill's Cybermidnight Club spaces. So high-level cybercrime analysis, security culture. It feels worlds apart, right?
It does seem like a strange mix, but that's our mission today, isn't it? To find the thread that connects them all.
Exactly.
How do the, I guess, psychological games or, the minor deceptions on a dating profile, how do they overlap with the mindset of a professional cyber scammer? Is there a connection? That's the question. We're looking at that whole journey.
Yeah.
From swiping right on a profile, this anonymous digital thing, to actually meeting someone in the real world.
Where you're suddenly vulnerable.
Totally vulnerable.
Go ahead.
That space, that transition, is where trust gets, well, either completely mismanaged or, like you said, actively weaponized.
And the consequences, they range massively from just a terrible evening, maybe some psychological upset.
Which is bad enough.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But it can escalate to, physical danger, abduction, or even worse, as we saw in some sources.
Yeah, the range is huge. We've got these extremes to look at, like that one story. The guy on the date who gets drunk on whiskey stands up in the middle of the restaurant and literally screams.
Oh, I remember that one. I will fucking shoot anyone who comes near my son. Just out of nowhere.
Pure chaos, right. And then you contrast that absolute human meltdown with the really structured world of cybersecurity that Alberto Hill talks about.
Right, where he's actually arguing for radical transparency, even with his own very public, very controversial past. He's saying that's the defense against things like catfishing and, the deep fakes that are coming.
It's such a paradox. So that's our core theme.
Yeah.
Navigating that gap between the curated online self and the, let's face it, messy and sometimes dangerous reality.
Wow.
What makes the difference between disappointment and disaster?
Okay, so where do we start? Level 1.
Yeah, let's start at the beginning.
Yeah.
Level 1, deception. The gap between the profile and the person who shows up.
Right.
Because the first thing that jumps out from all the dating stories is, well, the lie. Even a small one. It's how contact starts, but sometimes it's the first step towards something way worse.
And the thing is, the function of that initial lie, whether it's tiny or huge, it's always about the same thing, isn't it?
What's that?
Reducing friction, making the connection easier, establishing some kind of emotional hook, even if it's based on something false.
Okay, yeah. Makes sense.
So in the dating world, you see let's call them the trivial lies first, the cosmetic stuff.
Like what? The usual suspects.
Pretty much. The physical things, photos that are deliberately blurry or maybe show someone like 30 or 40 pounds later.
Oh, yeah. Or the 10-year-old photos, where you genuinely don't recognize the person when they arrive.
Exactly. That happens all the time. And height, that's a classic one.
Right. That story where the woman, she was about 5'1", met a guy who swore he was 5'4", and when they met, she instantly knew he was shorter than her.
See? It wasn't even necessary. But it's the commitment to the lie that's revealing.
Yeah, it starts the whole interaction off on a weird foot. And it extends to, status, too, right? Like that woman who hinted at some big executive job.
But the date quickly figured out she was in shared housing. And the place smelled strongly of cat litter.
Yeah, that one. The initial lie, even if it feels small, it just instantly breaks something. That basic trust.
And, those cosmetic lies, they can kind of quickly bleed into more serious stuff, intentional omissions, things that point to maybe deeper instability.
Like hiding significant issues.
Exactly. The sources had stories about, clear signs of mental health struggles being masked, like the partner finding an email open on a computer, and the subject line was literally living with BPD.
Borderline personality disorder. Wow. That's not just a bad mood. That's a serious condition someone's actively hiding.
Right. Intense emotional instability, difficulty with relationships. It's relevant information,
Totally relevant. Or the substance abuse issues that become immediately obvious.
Oh, yeah. The raging alcoholic described in one story.
Yeah.
Or the the diabetic person who ignored their condition, drank wine, and actually had a seizure on the date.
That's terrifying and just irresponsible.
And the person who showed up just like completely baked from smoking weed beforehand, so much so they could barely hold a conversation.
Yeah. The deception starts with the profile, but the danger is when the person arrives and they can't even manage their own reality, let alone interact safely.
And that's where the shift happens, doesn't it? From those kinds of maybe personal failings disguised online to outright malicious deception, that's where the Tinder stories got really dark.
Yeah, definitely. Here, the lie isn't just about vanity. It's like constructing a trap.
Exactly. Identity theft, catfishing with a dangerous intent.
Like Chaz's story. He matches with 2 profiles, supposedly women, which is already a bit weird, maybe.
A bit of a flag, yeah.
And they direct him to this, like, totally dark, remote path in the woods, late at night.
Saying no one will be there.
Right.
Yeah.
He only got away because he heard twigs snapping, realized it felt like an ambush, and just bolted back towards the park, chilling.
Or Jeremy's case, matched with Mia, who claimed to be someone he knew from high school.
Okay, so a potential known connection.
But when he gets there, it's a different car, different person inside, and they absolutely refuse to get out of the car, won't step into the light.
No way. So the identity was just bait.
Pure lure. The refusal to be seen just screams danger. The profile's only purpose was to get him there for, well, who knows what.
And one of the ones that really stuck with me was the person targeting someone who was openly trans.
Yeah, that was disturbing.
The target had a clear rule. Public places only for first meets. Super sensible.
Essential, really.
But the guy who matched with them immediately brings up his own size, basically saying he's big enough to overpower them.
Yeah.
And then insists they meet at his home.
It went from 0 to threat instantly. Using the target's openness, their vulnerability against them. The initial interest was just cover for assessing physical dominance.
This is predatory.
And if we pull back and connect this to the Cybermidnight Club stuff, that underlying mechanism, using a lie to create an emotional connection or bypass defenses, it's identical to how romance scams work.
Right. Same playbook, different scale.
Pretty much. Whether you're lying about your job to get a free dinner or inventing a whole persona as a soldier overseas to steal life savings, the goal is that initial emotional anchor.
You mentioned Spider Bee, the Alberto Hill spaces.
Yeah, Spider Bee, the black hat activist, they openly admitted on one of the spaces to having done romance scamming on Instagram in the past. Confirm these techniques are like standard practice because they work. They exploit that basic human need for connection.
And Brett Johnson, the former scammer.
Yeah, Brett Johnson's analysis is key here. He talks about how criminals have to compartmentalize. They learn to see the victim not as a person, but just as a mark or a target. It's detached.
So the first lie, big or small, it's basically like opening a door. And once someone's through, the risk factor just skyrockets.
Yeah, the environment changes completely, from potential awkwardness to potential danger.
Okay, so this is where it gets really complex and honestly pretty scary. Yeah. The risk just explodes when that initial deception, that lie, starts leveraging a real human vulnerability.
Exactly. It moves beyond just, bad dates or poor judgment. It becomes active manipulation, exploitation.
And the sources are just full of examples, aren't they? Especially vulnerability linked to, well, intoxication.
Oh, absolutely. Alcohol, drugs, they come up again and again, whether it's the victim who's impaired or the perpetrator. Or both.
It's like fuel on the fire.
It really is. It's a massive risk accelerator in all these scenarios. It basically creates the perfect opening for, well, social engineering in the real world, whether that leads to your wallet being stolen or something much, much worse.
We saw people just spiraling, like that guy who drank whiskey and just went, quote, crazy, started vomiting, yelling murder threats in the restaurant, and his date is just trapped there.
Terrifying for the other person. Or that other really disturbing one, the woman who got so drunk she had a full-on panic attack.
Yeah, screaming about being gang raped and then gave a different name.
Alexandra Romang, yeah. Likely dissociation from the trauma or the intoxication. The point is, the perpetrator often sees that reduced capacity and thinks, okay, opportunity.
It's predatory. And this vulnerability, especially with alcohol, it feeds right into those really high-profile tragic cases.
Like Gable Toasty and Warina Wright.
Exactly. The sources confirmed heavy drinking was just central to how that night ended so tragically.
Both were apparently very intoxicated. It fueled the arguments, the instability, leading him to lock her out on that high-rise balcony.
And then she fell, trying to climb down. His defense later really leaned on her intoxication, claiming she was acting irrationally.
But the core issue was a situation where judgment on both sides was just completely gone, compromised by alcohol, which ultimately enabled lethal violence. It's a chilling example.
And the other case, Joy People and Keith Collins. That highlights vulnerability from a different angle. Emotional desperation, right?
Yeah, post-divorce vulnerability. She was using Tinder, trying to move on, start dating again.
But she had this pre-existing threat from her ex-husband, Alexander. He'd apparently threatened to kill her if she ever dated someone else.
And he tracked them down, used the date as the opportunity. Her vulnerability wasn't digital, it was this real-world threat. And the dating app just provided the moment for it to be exploited. Horrific.
Beyond the immediate physical threat, though, there are these psychological traps. Things that keep people in bad situations way longer than they should be.
Anna Rose talks about this, right? The advocate against online deception who works with Hill.
Yeah. She emphasizes how victims often get stuck because of, like, a psychological dependence or even just basic practical needs.
Like needing a ride home.
Exactly. That story about the Tent City barber is just the perfect, awful illustration of that.
Remind me of the details on that one. It was wild.
Okay, so the woman meets this guy. She's already hungry, tired, and crucially, she needs him to drive her home. Long distance.
Right. Dependency established.
Then he makes her wait for hours while he does someone's perm, which apparently stank. Then makes her smoke weed with him. Then makes her help him move his homeless friend's stuff into Tent City.
Tent City, serious.
Seriously, while she's starving. Then he gets on the phone, starts screaming obscenities at his own mother, and the final straw, he insists she ride in the back seat on the way home.
No way. Why the back seat?
Who knows? It's just bizarre controlling behavior. But the point is, she was trapped, psychologically and practically, because she needed that ride. It kept her locked in this escalating, unsafe situation for hours.
That's profound entrapment. And then there are the more calculated physical tactics aimed at abduction.
Yeah, like the Marissa story. She gets directions from this guy, Luke, to an address that's conveniently close to where he is.
Alarm bell number 1.
And then she sees it. A white van parked nearby with its headlights off.
Oh, wow. Okay. Gut instinct time.
Totally. She got major bad vibes, realized it looked like a setup for isolation, and she just fled, ran away and called the police immediately. Her awareness saved her.
Which underlines why the location is just so critical.
It's the bottom line for safety, isn't it? That trans person who was targeted, their rigid policy was public places only, first meet.
Smart. Essential. Because the counterexamples where things went wrong, they almost always involve isolation.
Right. Chaz was lured into the pitch-black woods.
And that other story, the friend who met the down-to-clown woman.
Oh, yeah, that one was nuts. He gets in the car.
And there's no passenger seat.
No passenger seat.
Yeah.
And she's clearly drunk, locks the doors, and just drives him like 30 minutes away while he's begging to be let out, literally held captive.
See, isolation was the key. It guaranteed his helplessness. The safety of the person, physical and emotional, it's directly tied to how public and accountable the meeting spot is.
Okay, so we've got the initial lie, the deception. We've got how vulnerability, especially intoxication or needing a ride, gets exploited. Now what? What about the person causing all this? Their mindset.
Yeah, this is crucial. Is it just like random awfulness, narcissism running wild, or is there something more systematic connecting the terrible date to the professional scammer?
This is where Brett Johnson's perspective, the former cybercrime guy, really comes in handy. He talks about criminal detachment.
Right. Compartmentalization. Especially in organized scamming, high-level stuff. He said it's not just helpful, it's basically required to keep doing it.
How did he put it? They strip away the humanity?
Exactly. They stop seeing victims as people, with lives, families, feelings. They become purely marks or targets. There's this like emotional void that clinical detachment lets them operate without moral injury, as he called it.
Okay, that makes sense for a calculated scammer.
Yeah.
But what about the dating horror stories? The Tent City barber, the whiskey guy. They don't seem clinically detached. They seem chaotic, clueless.
That's the fascinating contrast, isn't it? It looks like denial or maybe just a staggering lack of self-awareness rather than cold calculation. But maybe the underlying mechanism is similar. Objectification.
How so?
Well, the low-level dating perpetrators, they seem detached from the impact of their actions. They genuinely seem to confuse their own self-absorbed drama or instability with, like, having a connection.
Like the whiskey guy. Screaming murder threats, vomiting,
Yeah.
and then calling her for weeks.
Yeah, calling incessantly, genuinely baffled about what went wrong, insisting he thought they really hit it off. He was so wrapped up in his own emotional explosion that her terror just didn't even register.
it didn't compute as a reason not to call again.
Exactly. Or the tent city barber, subjecting his date to that hours-long ordeal and being completely confused when she ghosts him, saying he thought the date was amazing.
It's like they're broadcasting, not receiving. Their focus is so intensely on their own needs, their own narrative, that the other person's experience, their fear, discomfort, misery, it just doesn't penetrate their reality bubble.
It's still transactional in a way, but it's executed with zero social awareness. It's chaos driven by ego, not the cold profit logic of organized crime.
But then you have examples that blur the line, like that ex-girlfriend story.
Oh yeah, the one who systematically slept with, 16 men and scammed them financially, later diagnosed with pathological lying and schizophrenia, I think.
Yeah, that feels less like chaotic ego and more like systematic exploitation, seeing people purely as resources.
Exactly. Functionally identical to a romance scammer, just using physical presence instead of digital distance.
Yeah.
The objectification is clear.
And the technical side of things is getting so sophisticated, it really does blur the lines between these like personal scams and full-blown organized crime.
Absolutely. Spider Bay from the Hill Spaces gave that insider view. He talked about Steelers malware, just hoovering up passwords, financial data, everything, silently.
And drive-by downloads, where just visiting a bad website is enough.
Yeah, no clicking required. Malicious software just gets installed. The technical infrastructure for deception is incredibly advanced.
And Spider-Bee himself admitted to past involvement in romance scams and even, disturbingly, supplying info for hitman services.
Yeah, it shows the extreme end of this digital underworld. The stakes can be incredibly high. And it's why the cyber defense side is so intense. You mentioned AegisNet.
Right, the simulated defense system.
Yeah.
They're testing against attacks named things like Romcom and APT41.
Which use 0 days.
Exactly. 0 days are those software flaws that even the maker doesn't know about yet. So no patch, no fix. The ultimate surprise attack vector.
And they also simulate attacks like Quinlan and Lockbit, which use C2 communications. Command and control. Basically, secret back channels for the attacker to control the compromised system. The point is, the level of digital deception is so high now, defenses need like 99.8% detection rates.
And huge resistance to AI deepfakes and prompt injection.
Right. So whether it's a simple lie about a job on a dating profile or a complex 0-day exploit, the person on the other end, the perpetrator, they're fundamentally seeing you not as a fellow human,
but as a resource.
Yeah.
Something to be used.
For sex, money, data, psychological kicks, whatever. The common thread is that objectification.
Okay. So if we tie all this together, the dating nightmares, the scams, the tech exploits the absolute core issue that links them all is trust.
Right.
Or the lack of it.
Exactly. The fundamental problem of trust in an age where anonymity is the default online.
Anonymity is the key, isn't it? It's what allows the lying, the catfishing, the dangerous setups on dating apps. There's no accountability if no one knows who you really are.
Your persona can be anything. Completely opaque until, you're forced into the light. And sometimes, like with Jeremy meeting Mia, the scammer won't even step out of the shadows. They maintain the anonymity cloak.
Which is why that counter idea from Alberto Hill is so arresting. Radical transparency.
Yeah, it just cuts against everything we normally think about online safety. His whole platform isn't built on pretending to be perfect. It's built on his actual, complicated, very public and controversial past.
Uruguay's first hacker label, the wrongful imprisonment claim. He puts it all out there.
It seems totally counterintuitive. We're taught to curate, to hide flaws online. But Hill's argument is that visibility, even flawed visibility, is actually the strongest defense. By owning his vulnerability, his history, he creates a verifiable trust.
Okay, but hang on. The counter-argument is huge, right? If you start sharing copies of passports or phone bills like his fiancée mentioned he did, aren't you just handing identity thieves everything they need on a silver platter?
That's a really important point. And the distinction, I think, is crucial. They're not saying randomly share your sensitive documents with strangers online. No way.
Okay, good.
It's about verifiable authenticity and a willingness to be exposed rather than hiding. His fiancée's experience is the key. She trusted him because he wasn't hiding behind some anonymous name.
Because he shared so much.
Yeah. The act of sharing, even potentially risky documents, wasn't about the documents themselves. It was proof of his willingness not to be anonymous. It was an investment, a signal of trustworthiness because it carried risk for him.
Ah, okay. That makes more sense. It's like the act of sharing something really personal or controversial, like a difficult past, or even say a mugshot if that were relevant,
Yeah.
it acts as a filter.
Exactly. It's high friction. Someone trying to run a scam or catfish wouldn't dare risk that level of genuine exposure. So the transparency itself becomes a kind of firewall against deception.
In Anna Rose, the anti-deception advocate, aligning with him is the proof.
It's powerful proof, yeah. She works against online deception, yet she partnered with someone with a very public, complex history precisely because he wasn't anonymous. She took a huge reputational risk. But she did it because his openness, his documented reality, felt more secure than the polished, anonymous profiles of maybe other experts in the field.
They share that philosophy, right? Turning something negative like trauma into a positive platform.
That's what they both say. And Hill's fiancée summed it up perfectly. She felt safe because he'd shared so much about him. The trust wasn't built on a curated illusion of perfection. It was built on documented, albeit messy, reality.
So the big takeaway here is deception needs darkness. It needs anonymity to thrive.
Right. And therefore, maybe the strongest, though counterintuitive, path to real connection and safety online is radical, verifiable transparency, even if that transparency includes flaws or controversy.
A known quantity, even an imperfect one, is safer than a perfect unknown.
That seems to be the conclusion when you synthesize all these different levels of deception. It completely flips the usual script about online safety. We assume the slick profile is safe.
But maybe the messy, documented one is actually more trustworthy.
Wow. Okay, so let's try and distill this. This deep dive across dating lies, real-world danger, and high-tech crime. What are the main learnings that cut across all three sources?
I think we landed on 4 key things.
Yes.
First, deception scales.
Yeah.
Massively.
Right, from tiny white lies on a profile, adding an inch, faking a job title.
All the way up to organized crime. Sophisticated romance scams, zero-day attacks, stealing national secrets. But the underlying mechanism, that objectification of the target, it's universal.
Okay, second point.
The real danger zone. It's that transition, that leap from the anonymous online world to actual physical or even just psychological vulnerability.
Yeah, that's the critical moment. And it gets exploited ruthlessly when things like intoxication, desperation, needing help, or past trauma are in the mix. The tech enables the meeting, but the risk is still deeply human.
Third point. The perpetrator's mindset, whether they're a sophisticated scammer or a cluelessly awful date.
There's that shared flaw, objectification. It shows up either as that clinical detachment Brett Johnson describes, seeing people only as marks,
Or is that profound, almost delusional lack of self-awareness we saw in the bad dates. The guys who thought the abusive date went amazing. Either way, the other person isn't real to them. They're just a means to an end.
And the final, maybe most provocative learning.
The trust paradox. That true trust, real safety in this digital age, might actually come from controversial but fully transparent histories.
Rather than from those perfectly polished, anonymous profiles we usually trust. Safety isn't in hiding flaws, it's in verifiable, maybe even difficult authenticity.
Okay, so connecting this out, a final thought for everyone listening.
Yeah, what does this mean going forward? Especially with AI getting so good at creating illusions, deepfakes becoming impossible to spot, AI manipulating conversations through prompt injection, the potential for deception is only increasing.
So, the question for you is, given this rise in artificial sophisticated deception, how can you cultivate environments of, well, maybe radical transparency and courageous sharing in your own digital life?
Could the courage to actually be seen, truly seen, flaws and all, sharing your messy human reality instead of hiding behind a perfect, opaque avatar, could that be more than just personal bravery?
Could it be like a collective defense, a tactical move against an increasingly deceptive digital world?
Something to think about. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.
We'll catch you next time.